hundreds of people get together to make a movie, mistakes happen all the time. Perhaps you saw the hydraulic system on the underside of a chariot in Gladiator, for example. These mistakes sometimes make it to screen, but only rarely do they happen in such a way as to actually improve a scene. No, the guy wasn't supposed to drop the most powerful item in the universe, but it sure was funny when he did. When it happens, it's memorable, and sometimes it's entirely movie-making. Some of the best moments in video history were completely unscripted and accidental. So with that in mind, I am Ellie with What Culture, here with movie mistakes that made films better. Star Wars, Stormtrooper Headbutt. When it comes to 1977's Star Wars, the most infamous blooper has got to be the time a stormtrooper slammed his head into an opening door. If you ever needed more proof that those suits were so impractical for intergalactic space fighting and just for general vision, then this moment is absolutely golden. It's one of those scenes that every fan of the franchise knows, but probably missed the first time they watched the movie. In the 1977 special edition remaster of the film, the director added an audible bonk sound and even recreated the scene in Attack of the Clones. As Jango Fett was walking into his ship, he bonked his head on the opening door in exactly the same way, which solidified the trait of stormtroopers, his clones, having originated right there at the source.
Film and TV is cool, but you know what else is cool? Protecting your privacy online. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 3 months free if you sign up today. I'd make that deal. Damn good deal.
Midnight Cowboy, I'm walking here. Sometimes actors like to ad-lib their dialogue when they think that their words are better than the scripted bits. Dialogue make it into the final cut and become some of the best spoken words in the movie. And this is what happened in Midnight Cowboy. When it was being shot, the production didn't have the permits necessary to shut down traffic on a busy New York City street, but Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman had to make that trek. To get past the lack of a permit, a van was stationed with a hidden camera across the street, and the actors walked back and forth to get the scene on a busy sidewalk. After 15 takes, the duo finally had a workable shot, but it was interrupted by a cab that ran a red light and nearly barreled right into the actors. Without skipping a beat, Hoffman reacted like anyone would in such a situation, but he remained in character, which made all the difference. He repeatedly slammed the hood of the car and yelled, "I'm walking here!" and movie history was made. Zoolander. So why male models? Sometimes an actor will remain in character and re-deliver the same line, hoping to spark that memory to get to where they need to be, which usually doesn't get thrown into the final cut of the film, or at least you'd hope it wouldn't. For Ben Stiller and David Duchovny's scene in Zoolander though, the director found their take so funny it made it to the final cut. This was the most crucial moment of the film, when Duchovny's J.P. Pruitt reveals the plot involving turning male models into assassins. Zoolander asks, so why male models? And receives the explanation that they don't think for themselves and do as they're told. In perfect form and timing, Stiller forgot his next line, so he simply repeated his last, which played perfectly with what Duchovny had just said. The gaffe was kept in and remains one of the funniest moments in the whole movie. Casino Royale, Bond's white bikini scene. Fans were originally quite skeptical of seeing Daniel Craig portray the British secret agent in 2006's Casino Royale, going back and forth pretty much up until one moment. That one moment, of course, being when he emerges from the ocean in all of his drippy, wet glory in some spin of Ursula Andress's white bikini moment in 1962. The only catch is that scene wasn't planned at all. Originally, the shot was meant to be filmed quite differently, with Bond positioned to look on at the villain's wife Solange while he floated in the ocean, but the reality of the location stepped in and changed everything. Craig explained that where they filmed in the Bahamas is one of those places where there's a sand shelf, and the sand shelf happened to be 3 feet deep. He was supposed to swim in and then float off like a friendly sea lion, but the water level thought otherwise. If only he'd been wearing the white bikini. Django Unchained, DiCaprio's hand slip. To be honest, we've all heard about this one by now. It is legendary. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance as Calvin Candy in Quentin Tarantino's 2012 film Django Unchained has that one key moment where acting overtook all sense of reason and made one big blooper historical moment in the process. And it was of course during the dinner negotiation scene where DiCaprio's Candy decides to drive a point home by slamming the palm of his hand on the table as hard as possible. Unfortunately for Mr. DiCaprio, there happened to be a crystal glass in the way, which shattered and embedded a chunk or two into the actor's hand, requiring stitches afterwards. The injury was so unexpected and intense that you can see the look of shock and concern on the actor's face. Fortunately, a little blood wasn't going to slow Leo down, and so he finished the scene and it was kept in the movie, as you can see by all of the blood. Rain Man, phone booth flatulence. While his most famous example clearly comes from Midnight Cowboy, another iconic role of Dustin Hoffman's required him to remain in character while going through something many have had to deal with: flatulence in a small space. I mean, Shrek always said, better out than in, and who are we to argue with Shrek, eh? In the movie Rain Man, Hoffman played the older brother Raymond to Tom Cruise's Charlie. Raymond was an autistic savant who had difficulty navigating the social niceties and norms in polite society, which is why he remained in character while shooting in a phone booth with crows when he had to let out a massive fart. In true Dustin Hoffman fashion, he remained in character and repeated, "uh-oh, fart," over and over again. Cruise, who is also a stalwart actor, remained in character and reacted in much the same way anyone would in such a situation, making this scene one of the funniest, most realistic, and memorable from the entire film. True Lies, stumbling stripper. When Jamie Lee Curtis played a mum and unwitting wife to a secret agent in the movie True Lies back in 1994, she had a memorable scene that few could forget. While trying to put a little excitement into her life, she gets involved in an espionage mission orchestrated by her husband, though she isn't aware of his involvement. Through the course of the operation, she finds herself in a hotel room with a dark figure and the instruction that she has to plant a bug, which leads to her stripping in front of the sitting gentleman. As she throws her clothes off in front of the man she isn't aware is her husband, she starts out awkwardly but slowly finds her rhythm as her dance develops into a sexy show of distraction that culminates in her use of a bedpost as a stripper pole. Just as things are getting hot, she pulls herself up on the pole and quickly falls right off and hits the floor. It was an accident, and good old Arnie nearly stood up to make sure Curtis was okay, but she kept her composure and continued with the scene. Given her awkwardness in the scene, the gaffe actually played perfectly for the character, and it remained in the film. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, kick the can. Through the course of 3 epic films shot and produced over several years, there were bound to be a few injuries on the set of the Lord of the Rings movies. One does not simply walk into Mordor. And Viggo Mortensen learned that the hard way by smashing his foot up and not being able to walk anyway. When Aragorn and company finally catch up to the Uruk-hai, who have Pippin and Merry, it appears that they were killed. In his frustration and anger, Aragorn kicked a helmet towards the camera and cried out in anguished pain. The scene was shot numerous times to try and capture Aragorn's rage and disappointment in finally finding his friends, only to have them turn up dead. But after 4 takes that weren't pulling off what director Peter Jackson wanted, he asked for more. The 5th take was perfect for Jackson, who saw the character's pain come across in the shot. Little did he know at the time that Mortensen had actually broken 2 of his toes, and while he did stay in character as he screamed in pain, that pain appeared to be all the more real to the situation rather than real to his newly broken toes, which is why that take made it to print. Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord's clumsiness. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, Peter Quill begins his adventure by finding an artifact which turns out to be an Infinity Stone, also known as one of the most dangerous and powerful items in all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wow, that was handy, wasn't it? You would think that such a device would hold the reverence of the characters, but when the collector asks for the stone, Quill does something that is so true to character and funny, it's surprising to learn that the whole thing was an accident. In true Star-Lord fashion, just as he is about to hand over the most powerful thing in the whole universe, Quill drops the stone and quickly recovers it. That scene was an accident, and Chris Pratt truly did drop the prop. They shot several takes, but the one that made it to the final cut of the film showing the gaffe was arguably the best of them all. The Usual Suspects, the lineup scene. Originally, the police lineup scene in The Usual Suspects was supposed to be serious, and each actor was meant to read the line, "Hand me the keys, you effing sucker," with all the grace and aplomb you would expect from such hardened professional actors. As it happened, they all giggled like schoolboys, which didn't make director Bryan Singer happy. At first, what made it to the final cut of the film was hardly serious, and there's a familiar reason why. Flatulence. It's amazing how many scenes have been ruined, or rather improved, by something so mundane as passing gas. Benicio del Toro farted like 12 takes in a row. inciting uncontrollable laughter, and the delivery of their lines in silly, over-the-top ways.